33.
24.
21.
19.
17. 16.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7.
6.
5.
4.
3.
2. 1.
It's time for mouthwash. Giddy up.
Hi, and welcome to Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty fresh take on politics. And I'm going to have to add the fastest growing show on the internet on there because we are really getting some attention going here. And it's been a busy week at the Chateau de Mars Hill studio because we have like 4 shows now. Hopefully you were able to catch Mark Small's Civil Discourse Now earlier tonight. And they really had probably a little different perspective on the January 6th insurrection, as they were talking about, and also we have some other shows that we're just going to sprinkle in some commercials tonight for that. So, and believe me, they're not paid commercials. These are just freebies for other shows we're doing, and hopefully you liked that new countdown we have. And if you didn't notice, we have a few numbers available, so all you got to do is just contact me any way you can. We're at mouthwashtalkshow@gmail.com or on the Facebook page or however you want to do it. And it's simple. You could just turn your phone sideways, say a number and send it to me, and I'll put you right in the show there. And those last 2 people on that countdown, I don't know who they were, but they're a little cray-cray, I'd say. But hey, we got a really good show tonight. We're going to talk about the January 6th thing because that anniversary is coming up. So how this is going to work tonight is we have Kelly Calloway. She is basically our cameo slash host or guest tonight. And I've broken down her cameo appearance to answer our poll questions on People Over Politics. And you can go to that group and join it, and you can get involved in our poll questions. And I'm quite impressed with how many people actually have taken time to do that. It helps us with the show. And also, we do put comments up during the show. And if you do that, I have a policy on that. It's kiss, keep it simple, keep it short. And so I can post it on the screen there. And if it's a good question, hey, we'll get it out there. And if it's a good comment, and if you always praise the guests and the hosts and all that, hey, we definitely make sure that happens. So, hey, we're going to get going to it here. I'm going to go ahead and do a promo here for a show that's coming up on the 21st. And this is a little different than what we've been doing. This is actually a true crime show. And I'll just let it speak for itself. So I'll do that promo, and then I'll come back and we're going to do introduction of the panel tonight. And I think Ed is having a little internet trouble, so we might be joining later. Up in South Bend, they probably have 2 cans with strings attached to them and have to pull them tighter so they can get a better connection. I don't know what they got up there, but it's all messed up. So here you go. Hey, take a look at this promo for a show coming up on the 21st. I think you're going to enjoy it. All right. Yeah. And I almost forgot to change my little thing at the end there to 2022 because this is our first show of 2022. And I think this was going to be a little wild. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Tiffany on here. So let's go ahead and bring Tiffany on. Hey, Tiffany, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic, John. Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you too. I see you got your popcorn ready because this is going to be a popcorn show, right? Popcorn and wine,
I've got that.
Right?
And nope, it's dry January. Just a Diet Coke.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to do. I don't know if you noticed behind me there, though. I got some guy behind me there. I don't think it's the January 6th thing. I put him up there. So, but hey, well, let's go ahead and bring on Lucy. Hey, and Lucy, how are you doing this evening?
Welcome to day 672 of Flatten the Curve for 15 days.
Yeah, it's that darn Bill Gates guy. That's
It is. It is. We can talk about that later.
Yeah. Hey, this is really interesting. Ed just popped up backstage. So, man, that is like cutting it close. And he's probably still upset about that Notre Dame game that was this weekend. So, that we have to bring that on. But I did hear some interesting news that I want to talk with him about. It was that it looks like there's a couple openings up at Notre Dame. So let's see what he's saying here. Hey, Ed, how are you doing this evening? I see you've got the strings between the two cans pulled tight enough, so your internet's working now.
Yeah, actually, I had to find a newer location.
Looks like you're in prison with that clock behind you.
I feel like it. It is cold. The heater was not on in this house, so
that's freezing. What happened with the internet line snapped because of cold. That's right. It's like South is not a very the right word to use for where you are. So how you doing? Are you still getting over that Notre Dame loss? And are you putting your application in for the Notre Dame coach?
No, as a matter of fact, you know what? First game in the big bowl game, being on a New Year's Day bowl, hey, things happen. So I was still happy. I would love to win, but I love the fight in the team, so I wasn't disappointed.
All right. Well, hey, we got a pretty decent show tonight, and it's we're probably going to keep the format right like this because we don't really have a guest. We have it's a guest / cameo appearance. Kelly Calloway, she's sort of broken down the people over politics questions, and I think she did a nice job with this. And we're going to be able to play a couple of those clips. And as usual, we'll have the comments on. And I don't know if the comments are not working right or something because I don't see any comments on here. So if somebody could comment in the comments to let me know that they're actually working, because by now we usually have at least a couple comments, and I'm not seeing that.
Ask Adam, are we up on Facebook right now? Usually people sign in.
Yeah, we got 25 viewers, so somebody's watching. Oh, there they are. It literally just popped up. So I don't. Oh, no comment. Okay, now everybody's cat's got. It must be really cold to hear too, because people can't speak. So there they go. All right, good. Yeah, I see several. I see a couple people on there that did numbers. So, but yeah, so this is going to be good, and we're going to rely on you folks tonight to comment because like I said, we're going to play this clip and then we're going to talk about it. So without any further ado, let's go grab this first clip. And this question here is, did Trump direct the riot? So I will put this clip up, and then I'm going to put in the banner down below what our People Over Politics poll revealed. So let's listen to this.
Hey everybody, I'm Kelly Calloway, and I was in Washington, D.C. on January the 6th of 2021. The question was, do I think that Trump directed the January 6th riot? No, he did not direct a riot. He directed us to show up and show our support and show our displeasure with the election results. He told us to be peaceful, and he told us to be respectful, and which is what we did. The few people that made it on the inside were incited, and they were also directed by, FBI informants and other bad actor groups that we witnessed ourselves in the crowd.
All right. So, hey, there's a firsthand, visual on that. So, I guess we'll open this up. Let's open this up to Ed first off the bat and see what you think about those comments. I mean, I didn't really pay a whole lot. I mean, I hate to say I didn't really watch a lot of these videos and things, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's interesting, and I can respect that. I've actually seen multiple interviews with people that were there that day, and I do think that you had I don't think this is a collective. It was one entire group, like just one big body. Having seen interviews from people that were there that day, I think you do have people that believe like she does, and I've also heard from other people that were, you know, did it. I will not say I've heard from anyone who said, hey, he directed this, but that they did have connections to people in Washington, D.C., and that there was, more planning behind this. And so were there certain people in that group that were, had connections and others that didn't? And I think you're being there and saying, well, none of us were, under direction or anything like that. I think you could have been there and been part of it and not realize that there was other people connected. So I respect what she says. But like I said, I've also seen other people who had different takes on this.
Yeah, I guess there was, anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 people there. So, you could, there's a lot, that's a lot of eyes. If you double that, that's a lot. That's 1 million eyes that are out there. So Tiffany, I'm going to go to you next. And then I can't wait to see what Lucy said. She's already got a lot of people behind her there lined up to talk. Yeah. So it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tiffany. Okay.
It was two very separate events. There was the rally, and I loved how Kelly talked about the rally. I'm sure it was very orderly and presidential, and show your support, use your right to, voice your ideas and your opinions. I think the rally and then what happened at the Capitol were two very different things. But I want to agree with her about the rally, because from what I saw on the news, the rally was was rather orderly. I mean, I will give her that, and then I will share the comment about what took place inside of the Capitol for later.
All right. Well, I'm going to put this one up there for Lucy to comment on. Chris Moore says Pelosi and McConnell set it up. I mean, you got to. Hey, those are Republicans and Democrats. So I'm going to pose that to the Libertarian here and give you that softball to hit out of the park.
Well, there are useful idiots everywhere in every party, even mine. But, I've reviewed tape of the Capitol riot, the insurrection. What it looked like to me was a whole bunch of middle schoolers on a field trip.
Yeah, like that guy behind me there. I got
he got the memo that it was costume day, and I think there's a little bit of speculation that he's been involved in multiple things. I mean, for people who don't know and delving into the conspiracy theory, universe, there really are people that are crisis actors. There are people that are hired for events. And you can even apply for a job to be a crisis actor. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that some people were actually hired for this event. They would have probably signed some sort of NDA that would have severe penalties if they were to come forward. And honestly, when you look at the Capitol riot and you talk to the people that were there, it clearly wasn't an insurrection. They weren't trying to overthrow the government. I mean, who overthrows the government without any arms? I mean, we did this before a couple hundred years ago. We know how to overthrow a government. That clearly was not what we were doing. I wasn't there, so don't include me.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well, that's a good segue into our next segment here about, is it staged or not? And, to set this up, I mean, we just had the Juicy Smollett, as Dave Chappelle would call it, or the Jesse Smollett case, where he staged a whole deal with with what happened to him. And so, it's not too far-fetched sometimes to think could something be staged, and it just takes a few people to get a mob going. And so let's listen to Kelly's take on the next question about, hey, was this thing staged?
Do I think that it was staged? Yes, I absolutely do believe it was staged, planned for many months by the FBI and other informants working with different let's say militia groups or whoever these bad actors were. I could tell you what they were wearing, what they looked like. how they were acting. They were not acting like Trump supporters. They were absolutely not. There was a 100% difference in the two factions of people that were there.
All right, I'm going to start with Tiffany on this one, and because you sort of touched on that before, and I think you're really wanting to expand on your answer.
I liked how she talked about that there were people there who didn't seem like Trump supporters. And it seems like, when we talked about a lot of the Black Lives Matter rallies and how people would say that, hey, we were protesting, then all of a sudden, people were becoming violent and, looting and breaking windows and, being more disruptive to what people thought they were going for, which was something more peaceful. I'm glad that she's able to give a firsthand account of seeing people that didn't quite seem like they were on the same page. And it's really nice to hear that from somebody who was there on the ground. And I want to go back to what Lucy said about it seeming like middle schoolers on a field trip. I was at work and we were watching what was happening on C-SPAN. And I remembered seeing some people come into the Capitol, and I 100% remember security guards standing there with their hands in their pockets. And in fact, they moved the stanchions back so that the crowds of people could walk by. And I said to myself, Princess, because sometimes I call myself Princess. I said, Princess, something is not right. These security guards got a memo that people were going to be coming over and they should not be alarmed and that they should let. I 100% agree that up until things got out of hand, those people inspected the Capitol building, security officers had their hands in their pockets and they moved the stanchions back. So up until that point, I think this was planned. I think that if there's any type of investigation done, you'll find emails, you'll find memos that the people who are in charge of security and running the building knew that people were going to come over from the rally to the Capitol. I'd bet a kidney on it.
Well, you got two, so you can do that. You can wager that. So Ed, hey, what do you think? Is this good acting, or is this like a real deal, or just a mob out of control? What do you think?
I have seen some of the video, and I saw some of the video that day. I think YouTube has been a fascinating thing to watch. Some of the cell phone videos that people had posted and stuff like that. Me personally, it's that mixed bag again, because I see what we're talking about on the inside and people moving out of the way. At the same time, you still have someone who is shot by Capitol Police on site. There's also video of an officer actually getting assaulted, like right on the Capitol steps, like right outside. And so again, I think it's in stages. Like it's hard for me, and I agree with Tiffany. I definitely think there was some inside planning on this. But it's almost as if not everybody got the memo, because you don't have in some places where cops are moving stanchions aside and just letting people march by, and on other end you've got a cop getting beat to death. And so it is really bizarre to me, this entire situation. And I also think the number of police, like knowing that that this was going down, and even on social media groups, whether or not they're pronouncing that that there were going to be violence, you knew the number of people that were coming. You knew beforehand that they were planning on going down there. So for security to be as light as it was that day, it's hard for me not to believe. It's hard for me to believe that there wasn't some sort of planning on the inside there.
Yeah, that is. So Lucy, I mean, acting or not acting? I mean, is this? I see you smiling up there. So
it takes very few people to change a crowd and what they do, and especially I've been to I've been an activist in a lot of crowds. It can get really confusing. You're trying to figure out who's in charge and who the leaders are. You're looking for some sort of a plan. And so when the barriers are removed by people that are in authority, based on the costume that they're wearing that gives them the special power to kill citizens without any redress of grievance for the citizens themselves. And then they literally ushered them in. They literally said, come on in. And then you had what I believe are likely FBI actors and things like that based on their dress and the difference in behavior that Kelly points out that were in up in high places saying, go this way, go this way. But see where they failed, where the planners failed, is they thought that this was the type of crowd because the left doesn't understand the mindset of the right. The left thought that the right would do what they did when BLM got the opportunity to go into buildings and they smashed and grabbed and did stupid stuff. The left, because that's their behavior, thought that the right would do the same thing. Instead, they respectfully came in and they wandered around and, basically like some middle schoolers. Now, the people that died there, because I want to address that from what Ed said, we know that the woman Ashley Babbitt died. And I think that was more a result of her being in the wrong place at the wrong time, maybe being a bit too enthusiastic about thinking that she could go somewhere and, kind of like the heightened feelings. I don't want to say she got what she deserved because I don't want anybody to die, but it's pretty clear that her behavior leading up to that would put her in danger of exactly what happened to her. But there were 4 other deaths, and none of the other 4 deaths were at the hands of the protesters. One was a heart attack, one was a stroke. There was a woman who died from an amphetamine overdose, and the only person that was actually killed by deliberate violence was Ashley Babbitt. And she was unarmed. She was shot in the neck by a police officer at close range. So I think it's pretty clear that this was not the event that Biden hoped for. I think that, Pelosi and them were really looking for something that was violent because it would carry the day. I mean, let's face it. How many of your friends are talking about January 6th? I mean, after January 7th or 8th, like nobody I know has ever mentioned it. But it has become the proverbial dead horse that gets beat on by MSM. They keep trying to put this into our consciousness, and we're all just kind of looking at it like, so what?
Yeah, it's almost like the Russian collusion. Again, it is very similar to that. Well, hey, we've seen 2 of Kelly's videos, and so now we're going to turn it up a notch because the small talk tonight is probably going to make Ted Lobdell's head explode. I guarantee that he is going to have to take some Xanax and all sorts of stuff. And you better go pour yourself some bourbon right now, Ted, because this one's going to make your head explode. But I'm going to go ahead and play the promo for Mark Small's show. It's Civil Discourse Now. And, hey, it's on at 7 before our show. So I'm going to play the promo. Then we're going to go to his small talk. And he's fired up tonight. So, hey, let's get on it.
Hi, I'm Mark Small. This is Small Talk. Let's talk about insurrection, baby. On January 6th, people stormed the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. There are people who today are trying to maintain that that was done somehow through Antifa or the deep state. Well, at our meetings every week, we never allow people in that are going to cause any kind of insurrection like that. We're very strict. All kidding aside, those people who stormed the Capitol were carrying Trump banners and Trump flags that were wrapped in Trump flags or the Confederate flag. That was even worse. Furthermore, you had Trump egging them on, saying, go, we're going to walk on down to the Capitol. I'll be there. I'll walk on down there. Walk on down there with you, bounce purse and all. The night before, Steve Bannon was saying all hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Yet Alex Jones showing up on January 6th, getting people to go out there and informing them on how to go down there to the Capitol building. There have been over 150 people plead guilty out of something like 700 arrests. People bragged about it on the social net, going on social platforms, bragging on Facebook and different places about how they were down there and doing it. Nobody has said it wasn't me. A lot of them have said we were doing it because Trump told us to. Nobody said it was because Nancy Pelosi told us to, or Chuck Schumer told us to. Those people would have taken credit for it. Yeah, we're claiming back our country again if they'd succeeded in pissing away what it's taken a couple of hundred years plus to try to get established. And that's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So don't sit there and try to tell me it was somebody else. They were there, they killed people, and people have had to face a lot of crap because of it. We've got a lot of stuff coming ahead of us in 2022 on midterm elections and a 2024 election that there's trying to be stolen by Trump and people. So don't tell me it was a put-up job by Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer. If those people don't have the guts enough to take responsibility for what they should try to do, then they should St. Francis University, STFU. Just shut up. Thank you. Mark Small, Small Talk. Catch me on Civil Discourse Now before Mouthwash every week. Peace, love, happiness, freedom, nanu, all that.
Yeah, I warned you, Ted. I hope you're not hiding under the couch right
Francis
now.
University, that's a new one.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he was fired up. Next week, he's talking about climate change on the Civil Discourse Now. So yeah, that I warned you. We're going to have some previews of some shows coming on here because this is we're not the Ted Turner Network or CNN yet, but hey, we're well on our way. So hey, I don't know. Somebody want to start with that one? That's a little contrast compared to what Kelly was saying. So we could go on to the next one, or I'm going to open it up to whoever wants to field that one.
I love Mark Small, but it's exactly what I expect from somebody that's left leaning.
Well, and I think that, it's like, do you think if Pelosi and Schumer and McConnell would have, I don't think they would have advertised that they did this, because look how it's going for Trump. And, he's getting hauled into court, and his kids are getting hauled into court, and his dog's getting hauled into court. Does Trump even have a dog? But anyway, he probably does, and he's probably getting hauled into there. So, well, let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. This is this is actually going to do 2 questions in one. And this is about charges and a waste of time. So let's go ahead and listen to this, and then we'll get on to our comments.
This third question, yes, I do think people will be charged. Yes, I do, but I think it's the wrong people. The FBI bad actors that were responsible for inciting the whole mess, they are conveniently being left out of the equation. They're being hidden. There's 14,000 hours of video footage that members of Congress are not allowing to be released to the public, which shows the truth. And lastly, yes, the January 6th commission is a waste of time, and it's a waste of our tax money, because the truth is not going to come out unless they release all of the footage of what actually happened. And I'm Kelly Calloway, and that is my firsthand take on the incident.
Yeah, so hey, she was there. So I guess that's something we can talk about. How much money do you think they're going to waste on trying to figure this thing out? And they're digging down in the weeds and digging people up and this and that. So Tiffany, I'm going to go with you first on this one. What do you think about it? Is this money well spent?
It really depends on what we're trying to figure out. Biden is our president right now. He's doing a good enough job to not get reelected. So, that kind of is what it is. There are people in jail, people who are waiting for. So there's what happened. There's how it's played out. There's what we know. There's what we don't know. But my question is, what are we trying to prove? What do we really need to understand? Do we want to know who's behind it? We're probably really not going to figure a lot out. But one of the things that I do think that is most important when you take a step back and you look at it, there was a rally. There were people who went to the Capitol who seemed like they were on a field trip for a little while. And then that mob mentality, it was kind of like what Kelly was saying. There are a couple of people that went, and the consequences like Lucy was saying, if you've ever been in a really large crowd when things don't feel right and things go bad, I'm sad that Kelly had to be a part of that, because it seems like it probably started as a very patriotic event for a lot of Trump supporters. And then it turned into something that was really bad and horrible. Probably people have PTSD, people died. But what I think is that, like, it's that mob mentality, that people who it wasn't enough to be in the Capitol, hey, let's kill Pence, let's go get him, let's storm this. When you look at what the lawmakers had to do, they had to flee. They had to barricade themselves in rooms. I mean, this went really bad, really fast. And I was, when I was in the military, I was never in charge of securing a perimeter. That was not my goal. But once you lose your perimeter, you set yourself up to all kinds of bad things. And so this is really what happened. And so when you look at, those security guards in their hands in their pocket, letting people in, that's when we lost control. We had far too many people in too small of a space. We had some bad people in there doing bad things, and things got out of control. And so it happened. It's another red stain in American history. But we'll probably never figure out what we want to figure out, probably in the next 20 to 25 years. I just think that, you got to change your security parameters. You got to change your crisis management. You got to change how you do business. And it's sad because the Antifa folks, your disruptors, they're showing up at a lot of different events, and they found a way to just disrupt stuff. So I do a monthly meeting for Republicans here in Fishers, and every month somebody will go on Eventbrite and buy all my tickets. And then it's the same person. They'll try to get all the tickets, and I have to delete them. So there are people at every level up to malfeasance. There are people who are trying to disrupt all kinds of things. And they are the kind of people who sit behind a keyboard, who wouldn't say boo if they saw you face to face. They just use the internet. They use these sneaky tactics to disrupt things. And they're always going to be there. And so, you just can't give them an inch. You just absolutely can't give them an inch. And I don't know what the answer is, but they're just people who just have bad ideas. You have to think about Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. I mean, he was a guy in a shed, and he'd send a bomb in the mail every now and then. These people are able to do things far worse than that, and far more frequently. So it's a bigger problem with these people who are trying to disrupt what's going on.
Yeah,
Just
on
my
a bigger
thoughts.
scale, we look at Timothy McVeigh, but I know you're a military person and Ed's a military person. Ed, from a military standpoint, wouldn't you? I was really, really surprised they weren't more prepared for this type of a crowd and this type of a thing. And I see you smirking it just a little bit like Lucy, and Lucy's looking up at the sky. So you'll get your chance, Lucy. And Lucy in the sky with diamonds there on that one. So Ed, I mean, talk to me here.
So here's the funny thing. I'm the gambler, and I bet the house. I won't bet a kidney. But the key to me is there is 100% not I'm 100% assured that this is an inside job as well on the backside. Like I said, with security. And one of the biggest things to me, like, we're talking about the people that came in, and I would agree, like, when we're talking about there's bad actors out there. I was part of my job in the military was on the intel side. And guess what? You're going to have bad actors coming at you all the time. There's just, even your regular person being out in the street, there's always that chance that whether it's a mugging, something like that, you're always facing that, right? The worst thing in the world is having somebody on the inside who you've been infiltrated on. And I think for me, the biggest part of when we're talking about the investigation is finding out on the inside who was involved, what level this was at, because to me, that's the bigger problem here. It isn't, you're going to have, I can tell you right now, if you talk to Capitol Police, they've had incidents where people have shown up with guns, where people have shown up with bombs. This isn't an isolated incident. Yes, there was a big crowd there, but it wasn't just this one-time issue. But the bigger concern to me is seeing that, they were so ill prepared, seeing their response being so bad, understanding that why was that, who was responsible in that chain there, and to me that's the big part of where you have to get to in this. As far as the other stuff, as far as the people go, it could have, this could have been a bunch of other organizations. I know that you've had a lot of other protests before. The problem is you've had a presence. I mean, when Black Lives Matter and organizations showed up on the Capitol, you had a huge police presence. You could see the massive difference between when they were there and when this happened. And so I think that when we're talking about the investigation and what exactly are we looking for, that to me is where it's at. Where was that breakdown, and how does that not happen again? Because we got lucky. I will agree. Like Lucy said, they didn't show up with guns. But if this happened this time, we've seen it. Look, 9/11 happened. A lot of people forget that, that wasn't the first time they attacked the Twin Towers. That wasn't the first time Al Qaeda hit us. But it didn't capture every, I was on the intel side in there, and I remember screaming to people like, why the hell isn't this more of a bigger issue with you? Why aren't you paying attention to what's going on? Because they had hit us, especially in the military, so many times, and they learned from all of those. And so if you're not going to investigate with this, you're asking for a bigger incident down the road, because people are going to learn from this and they're going to come back again.
Yeah, and they say that actions like that not punished is more like a rehearsal.
Mhm.
So, and one of our People Over Politics polls that got the most action was, is this thing a big waste of money, this commission? And, a lot of people say, yeah, this is a waste of money. And Ed, I think a lot of people might change their mind if they were after what you're talking about, instead of what it seems to be like is to hang this thing around Trump's neck and push him off the pier. See, I used a Navy term there for you, Ed, on that. That's what I do here. I'm that quick on my feet, right? So, Lucy, I see you up there. We got about 10 different
I'll
things.
tell you
I'll give
what,
you a few minutes here.
I got to put an underline, a bold, and an exclamation point on basically everything Ed just said. And if Ed, who's supposed to be the traditional Democrat, sees through this, then it should be super obvious to everybody involved. We talk about, AOC and Nancy Pelosi and others fleeing. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but I don't remember any conservative or Republican, although sometimes Republicans aren't conservative, sadly. I didn't see any R's coming forward and saying that they fled for their life from the Capitol. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall anybody that, only the Democrats came forward to say that. And I think that was an important narrative. Henry Ford said that if the American people knew what was really going on, the politicians and the bankers would be hanging from light poles by morning. So it makes me wonder, were the Democrats, did they feel guilty? Do they know how they've been selling out the American people? Not that the Republicans haven't either. Remember, I'm going to evenly, spread all of that blame around. But philosophically, why is all of this even important? Why is there this giant power grab? And the reason is because government is very useful when you want to commit fraud. And when you want to commit fraud, you can make a lot of money doing that. You can do that through lobbyists giving you tons of money. You can do that through controlling the laws that control, actions down the stock market. And so the whole reason we see this drama played out between the R's and the D's is just for the simple fact that fraud is profitable and everybody wants to make sure that they get their fair share.
Yeah, well, and they're lining up at the trough for this commission because, it is very much seems a lot like the Russian collusion. And, they spent millions and millions of dollars to find out that we got Russian bots on Facebook. All right, that's awesome. And, they're going to spend all this money and find out that this guy behind me here isn't really a buffalo. This is going to be crucial. But I just wonder how
For all
much
we know, that guy behind you is a performance artist. He's just a performance artist. He's trying to, get his Instagram
look,
followers up.
if I position right enough, I can be that guy, but I'll probably get a letter from the FBI tomorrow about where I need to appear. So, we mentioned the Black Lives Matter and this, you could say they're both riots, insurrect, whatever you want to call these peaceful protests, whatever. What is the difference? I mean, we witnessed here in Indianapolis the TJ Maxx and the CVS, and I mean it wasn't just a little bit of looting. It was like, hey, I think they even took the shelves. It was like the Grinch stole Christmas to some of these businesses, and they have them all on footage and everything. And my gosh, they pretty much waived all of their charges on their stuff. You didn't hear anything about that, but man, you hear some of these people. I guess they're still in jail, from what I understand, and they're waiting on a trial. And it's been a year. I mean, it's been a year. So, hey, I'm all for making an example out of somebody, but hey, let's make the same example out of everybody that does the same thing wrong. So, what do you think about that? That's going to open up maybe another can of worms here, but
I think there are going to be some interesting because there are literally people that have been jailed since January 6th. A lot of them, through their attorneys, we found out that they've been in horrible conditions. Some of them have been put up with Gen Pop and been beaten up, and that seemed to be intentional. Certainly the guards in the warden could control who has access to those people. Others have been in solitary confinement. I think we're going to see some interesting constitutionally based lawsuits for violation of the Eighth Amendment. No cruel or unusual punishment.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it's a double standard on this, and and if you're a black person watching this, I mean, Tiffany, you're a black person. I mean, you've had oppression and unfair treatment over a lot of years. I mean, if I were you, I'd say, hey, they get, now they know how I feel. I mean, what's your take on this?
What? So I would say that my perspective is that, I did not participate in any of the peaceful protests or any rioting that went on in Indiana. But I do like what Dorn said. There are parallels between people who are showing up to show support, show solidarity, and then all of a sudden things are going bad. People are throwing rocks and bottles at cops. Things are going in a different direction. And anybody who would say, oh my God, those people were, those Hoosiers were out of control, I think it does give somebody pause to say, wow, maybe there were some people there who weren't supposed to be there. Maybe there were some of these actors, maybe there were Antifa folks, maybe there were people there with motives that were outside of protesting what happened to George Floyd. The weekend that the protest happened, that was the weekend of my birthday. And I got a text that morning. I think my birthday was on a Thursday. I got a text from Chris Beatty. He was a friend of mine, a Cathedral grad, and just really great guy. They called him Mr. Indianapolis. And he sent me a birthday text. And thank God I texted him back, because a couple days later, he was a victim of the violence downtown. And he went outside, and, there were some girls who were being held up, and he stood up for them and said, hey, man, it doesn't have to be like that. And he was gunned down in the street. And it had absolutely nothing to do with George Floyd. It had to do with Black Lives Matter. It was all about bad people doing bad things to other people. So, I think that to understand that in America, there have always been oppressed people. And people are going to share the voices. They're going to raise their voices. When I was stationed in Montgomery, Alabama, and I had the chance to go to Selma, Alabama, and go across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where many people, asking for civil rights, wanting to vote, wanting to be able to sit in the front of the bus. There are always going to be oppressed people, and they always have the right to ask for more. This is America, but there are bad people doing bad things. And if you're Black, white, purple, Hispanic, Latinx, there are bad people out there. And the only thing that we can do is, be good people, raise our children to have character, have great values. And then sometimes, my dad's retired sergeant major, and my dad is of the mindset, sometimes you need to stay your ass at home.
Yeah, I'm telling you, That's a good policy, and nothing good happens after midnight on that. But so Lucy, I'm going to let you can expand on that a little bit if you want to. But I got a question about what do we do to stop these type of things? What can we do? Because it seems like these seem to be more of a trendy thing. I mean, look at Hollywood. I mean, they could make a movie look like it's darn near reality and even more than reality. So how are we supposed to sniff this stuff out? How are we supposed to say, hey, that doesn't look right or that doesn't seem right? What you got an answer for that?
That's a great question. First of all, I would say that an armed society is a polite society. If people show up to these sorts of protests that are bad actors, if they knew that every other person could fight back, if your friend had his own gun, could he avoid being gunned down? I don't know the circumstances. It might have happened to him by surprise. But if he confronted people who were more well armed than him, and he suffered and sadly died from that, maybe things would have been different if he had been carrying himself. And so if, I know for myself, I felt a lot more comfortable when I was going to those protests in 2020 and 2021. And there were people that were, open carrying, rifles slung across their backs. I felt a lot more comfortable in those types of situations. What should we do though? I mean, the question here is one of intent. The BLM, Antifa, they have made zero mystery about what their intentions are with their agenda and what they want to do for this country. So people that identify as BLM and Antifa should be punished when they commit bad things. There's a lack of consequences for the actions for the people who are actually actively trying to destroy this country. And when they're allowed to bail out, when they're allowed to walk free, when they're not put in jail for their actions, it only further emboldens those, right? And now we have a situation where people that were basically thinking that they were on a field trip or a tour of the Capitol are still being held without bail in basements in solitary confinement, in some cases without access to, running water and a toilet. And so we're clearly showing people what kind of behavior is incentivized and what kind of behavior is not incentivized. So until we start punishing bad actors, I don't expect to see a shift in society.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when Ghislaine Maxwell gets out of jail before the people from January 6th, that tells you a little bit of something about who's actually charging people and who's not charging people. And that's another question, Ed, for you. And then I think we're going to wind it up. We're going to try to stay within an hour tonight. This has been a very good discussion so far. And now I forgot my question. That's awesome.
Probably Ghislaine Maxwell and how the woman gets prosecuted. We know we know she trafficked kids. We know who the kids are that she trafficked, and we know who they got trafficked to. So why are we not prosecuting the people that were the buyers? That's what
we can only hope. And that's my question, Ed. Why does it seem like the fox is guarding the hen house on this? Do you think that, if you look at this January commission, it seems like it's pretty partisan and they tried to invite some Republicans on there and they got some over some, maybe lukewarm Republicans. And I think it's probably obstruction on their part somewhat. But, it's sort of like in Animal House when Otter got up and said, we're not going to sit here and listen to you badmouth the United States of America. And they all marched out in Animal House. So, what do you think about that? Is that something that sort of concerns you, or do you think it concerns others that maybe the system that we have is a little bit biased?
So I'm going to roll the tape back all the way back to the Rodney King riots and say I grew up in Southern California. I remember driving home and watching National Guard hauling the other way down the highway to go take care of what was a catastrophe. I mean, I remember driving through Los Angeles and you could pull up to a stoplight and look down and see for blocks through burnout buildings. And one of the interesting things, my perspective has been growing up with that OJ Simpson trial. We had several high profile cases out there. Latasha Harlins back in the day. Is that I still don't believe to this day that we have a justice system. I think we have a penal system. And I think that when we're talking here, we could remove, like, everybody wants to put in their pointed words, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's right wing, left wing, whatever you want to put, to think that our justice system is equal. We brought up just, Ghislaine Maxwell. The truth of the matter is, and I'll go back to OJ. If you got enough money, right, our system is geared towards, leans heavily towards those people that have money, have power, have connections. And I would ask you guys, like, those guys that are still sitting in jail right now, the power, the connections, the money, how many of them have that? Because I guarantee you, like, almost with the, Ghislaine Maxwell and everything else, gets you the free pass in this country. And so that's my bigger issue when it comes to the justice system, is it's not equal. And I have a really hard time calling it a justice system. And regardless of which side you're on, I would agree with you in some regard. I'm not as familiar with what was handed down in Indianapolis, what they did. I am on the side that, again, I saw the damage that was left behind in the wake of the Rodney King riot, and I still think that was unforgivable, and those people needed to be punished for what they did there. For Indianapolis, I would say the same. And I think this picking and choosing of, like, when it's my team, like, we're not going to go so hard against them. I think it's a matter of perspective, because I do, you could be prosecuted differently depending on where you did the crime, where you're at. And it's crazy. I guess that's, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, and that's, the answers to some of these questions seem so obvious, yet we're so far away from things. And, we're stuck on it just should have gone away. And this is the anniversary of it. I mean, anytime we have an anniversary of something that comes back up, and, it's just one of those things that we're going to find out, hopefully, at some point, because, like I said, I know they're calling everybody into these, and they're, contempt of courts and all this other stuff. And, to me, it just looks like they're just trying to find something to stick on somebody. And then, like I said, there's going to be consequences. Is it going to be the right people that are going to have the consequences? So, hey, I think we've covered the bases pretty well right here. And we've had some good comments in the chat tonight. And we're going to do the conspiracy theory. So I don't know, Ed, did you even make anything up? I don't have anything.
I've got something.
Okay, yeah. Good. I'll make up something. Oh, I got a good one, because tomorrow, never mind. I'll tell you in a second. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another shameless plug for the Do Something Indie show, which my wife has actually hijacked for me. And it's a really good story tomorrow night, and it's not live or anything. You can watch it anytime on the Do Something Indie page. You can like that and follow it, and then you can get alerted when that comes out. But it's a really good story about somebody that we met here in Mars Hill, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's not as long as this show or the other shows. It's just a quick little snippet of people that are doing something in Indy that making a difference. So I'm going to play that, and then I'll play the promo for the tinfoil hat. I see Lucy's already like getting ready, 1 foot to go there. So let's get ready for the tinfoil hat moment. All right.
Hi, Lisa Schmitz here with Do Something Indie, and I am super excited about my next show. It is a friend of the show's who has been on before, and I'll leave it at that. So first show 2022, be sure and watch.
Hey, y'all, it's time for the conspiracy theory, so you better get your tinfoil hat out, and let's see what's going on this week.
We're going to let you slide, Ed, because you're not at your home field advantage there. But Luce, I tell you what, folks, when I did this, the countdown for this thing, I was like, I'm going to put my teeth in and do something goofy at the end. And Lucy just sent her recorded version in tonight, and Tiffany's going to get me hers. So one of those is going to be Tiffany next week. And I laughed because she put on something silly in the tinfoil hat. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. But hey, I think this has been a really good show. I really enjoyed being able to talk with you guys and let you guys talk, because we've had a few shows here lately that you haven't really been able to get much in there. So hopefully our audience enjoyed the show tonight. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, the tin foil hat moment. And so we're going to start with I'm going to start with Lucy. So she's got the mask and the hat going. So, and if it doesn't have Bill Gates or somebody in it, I'm really gonna be disappointed. So go ahead, Lucy. You're muted.
There we go.
Oh,
That's
there
a
you
great
go.
start
Yeah,
for this. I'm
that
so
helps.
anonymous, I'm even muted and you can't hear me. I would like to announce the manufacturer of the ultimate Omicron shot. So here I am. I'm ready to take my vaccine and die from pericarditis and myocarditis. For those of you who aren't aware, it is a Bill Gates conspiracy for sure. He wants to reduce the population. And if you want to see the elite's plan for the reduction of population, just simply Google Georgia Guidestones, and you'll see that the goal is to reduce the population down to a manageable and sustainable number of only 500 million. Now, it's pretty difficult to kill people. I mean, that takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of ordinance. But I'll tell you what, if you can get people to simply volunteer for their own demise, if they'll show up and let you, stick them with one of these, it's a lot easier to get people to kill themselves if they'll line up orderly. In fact, they're even demanding it. And of course, Bill Gates is making record profits while it's all happening. So that's the conspiracy tonight, is that I've created the Omicron killer.
The Omicron killer. Well, we need a couple more Greek letters on there, and then it'll be good to go. Well, and if you've seen, I've seen some montages about the people that were pushing the vaccine that said, "Hey, you can't get it, you can't spread it. This is 100% good," and it's like I hear the backpedaling on that. But yeah, so that's for a different show, because we usually have a lot of fiery activity on that. So, Tiffany, what do you have tonight? Any new news about anything? Because you don't do the conspiracy theory.
Sure. Yeah, well, I had to release Bigfoot back to the wild, so there's that. But I go back to what Lucy was saying about COVID-19, and then also when we were having Dr. Stock on the show, I think the biggest conspiracy theory right now is that no one talks about what Americans can do, what people around the world can do to boost their immunity system, to be healthier, to do things so that they are less likely to get COVID-19. We say, get a vaccine. Obviously, that doesn't work for a lot of people. They say get boosted. That is not keeping people from getting the virus. I don't know about the masks, but I do think that we really need to help people do things to be healthier so that we can try to mitigate some of this. And I do think it's interesting that it seems like as it continues to go, and maybe we should get Dr. Stock back on the show. I'd love to get his idea. It's just kind of getting milder and milder. I don't know. I would love to hear what his update is on this new strain of the virus. I would.
Yeah, I think that we're due for that.
That's what I want, John. Santa. That's what I want, Santa.
Yeah, we're due for an update on that, because it does seem like we had we had to cancel plans, and I'm pretty sure I had it again. I almost had my taste back, and then that's the only symptom I had was no taste. Stayed at home, didn't go out on that Sunday, and for my more than 5 days or whatever, just to be safe. But it seems like it's just turning into a cold, and I think that's how these things always progress. We had N1H1 back in the 2008-9 season, and it was pretty rough. I remember a lot of people had issues with that. So, Ed, what do you got tonight? I see you really broke out a lot of foil. That looks like a gum wrapper on your head there.
It is a metal pipe cleaner. My daughter's crafting stuff. First of all, I would like to say, John, as long as I've been on this show, I think there's a lot of people that still question your taste. But Next,
Yeah,
for my
I get that.
conspiracy theory, I'm going to go back to not the Rodney King riots, to the O.J. Simpson car chase. And since we are on this thing, we're talking about security and everything, and also how fast it is to draw idiots to a crowd. I was living in Orange County at the time, and we saw that car chase develop on the TV. And living in Southern California, you're used to seeing car chases all the time. But this one was really special because this was OJ. And so I remember packing up with a bunch of friends, and we ran down to the 5 freeway to make sure that we were getting on television. And of course, I lived right by Disneyland. And so we are getting there, and we got our places on the fence, and we are going to get there and get our big moment in the sun. What we didn't realize at the time was that Disneyland has a no flyover zone. And so if you ever watch the highlights of that chase, the helicopters actually pull up when they reach Disneyland, and they fly around Disneyland. And so out of the entire chase from San Diego all the way back to Brentwood, the one area that you don't see is me. And I would say that maybe the DC guys need to hire Disney security. They would probably do a better job with security. But I've also been very disappointed because I think Disney had it out for me not to be a star, although I'm still trying, thanks to John.
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna put a good word in for you, but I believe that is true. That is true right there for sure. Yeah, that man, it's been what, almost how many years for OJ? That's been a long time ago. Has it been 20 years, or I can't remember how long ago it was. It was in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's paid his debt to society. He's good. He went to jail for stealing stuff. He's good.
Yeah,
they got him. They got him on the Al Capone rule.
93, 94.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that white Bronco, that's an old style. I know that. That's for sure. I think that Vanilla Ice was popular back then too. So a lot of different things happened. Well, hey, I got a conspiracy theory for you. This is I know a guy that's going to be a substitute teacher tomorrow for the first time, and he's going to be 7th and 8th grade science. And I heard this clown was going to teach flat Earth, and gravity is built on emotion and not on science, and all different things. So I don't know if this is true or not, if this guy's going to be teaching tomorrow for the first time as a substitute, but let's wish him luck anyway. So, that's my conspiracy theory tonight about substitute teacher teaching flat Earth. Yeah, I got a lot of suggestions.
$50.
Yeah. I get $15 for teaching spin class at 5:45 a.m. in the morning. So I really got two badges tomorrow for being teacher. But I got a lot of advice on Facebook. So I'm happy with my friends. I got over 50 comments of advice to how to do this. So, and a lot of ex-teachers laughing at me. So it's going to be fun. Well, hey, this has been a great show. Like I said, I'm glad y'all got to.
John, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as you prepare to be a substitute teacher, they trained you on pronouns to address the kids. Has that come up?
I had to do all of that stuff. I had to do all this training and online training and, this and that. And actually I was all souped up to think it was going to be a lot more stuff than it was, but there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of rules you have to follow. But I've always been really good with kids. I've been a camp counselor, and I've been able to keep out of troubles pretty much. But generally, I would usually get the kids that cause trouble because they know that if you're a troublemaker, you can help solve the problem. So I'm used to it. So this will be interesting. I'll give you a full report next week on if I live to tell about it. So, hey, folks, it's been another great show. And, as I say jokingly, that's maybe not jokingly, we're the fastest growing show on the internet. And it's fun to be out and about and people say, hey, you're doing that Mouthwash show. Those three crazy people on there with you. It's great. So I'm going to attribute it to you guys is what our success is for. So, hey, let's go ahead and call it a night here. And let's roll that ending here. And hey, see you on the other side, everybody.